At some point when you start turning within, you begin to see things. Not things that were placed there recently. Things that have always been there. Quietly running. Just beneath the surface of the version of you that the world sees. Maybe it's in the thoughts you attach to without questioning them. Or the way you respond before you even decide. What about the way you treat people when no one important is watching? Or the judgment that rises before you can even stop it? The pessimism that colors everything before you give it a chance? Or the way you sometimes look down on others while carrying your own unexamined weight? And there's a moment when you see it clearly, not as something someone told you about yourself, but as something you are witnessing from the inside. And it's uncomfortable, because this is you. Not the curated version or a performance. You. Most people, when they reach this place, they do one out of two things. They run from it, bury it down under the busyness, distractions, spirituality that stays at the surface. Anything that keeps them from having to sit with what they just saw. Or they turn it into another reason to condemn themselves, another layer of shame to carry, another proof that they are too broken to be whole. But there's a third thing available, and it requires you to understand what the seeing actually means. The fact that you can see it means something has shifted. You cannot see what you are still completely inside of. The recognition itself is the evidence that something inside you has moved. That a layer of the performance is beginning to crack. And the truth of who you are is starting to press through what has been covering it. This is not a beginning, it's a return. You were not born with judgment or pessimism. You were not born with patterns of behavior that now make you wince when you see them clearly. You were born whole. And somewhere along the way you learned, you adapted, and you built a self that could survive the conditions you were placed in. And that self became so familiar that you forgot it was constructed. The darkness you're seeing within is not the truth of you. It is what accumulated in front of the truth of you. And the fact that you're now seeing it, really seeing it without looking away, means the truth of you is strong enough to finally look at what has been in its way. That's not something to be ashamed of. That is the most courageous thing a person can do. Because it's easy to stay in a comfortable way that you've been living, that performance, to keep presenting the version of yourself that you have refined over the years and avoid the interior confrontation entirely. Most people do it. Most people go on an entire lifetime without ever really turning within and staying long enough to see what is actually there. But here you are. You're not doing that now. And that matters more than you realize. So what do you do when you see this part of you? You stay with it. It's not to punish yourself or to make it mean that you are fundamentally flawed. No. To be honest, it's enough to look at without being defensive. just to ask quietly, where did this come from? What was I protecting when I developed this? What was this behavior a response to? And when you start that honest tapping in within, without the rush to fix it or explain it or justify it, something within you begins to soften. And the pattern that you have been performing for some time slowly begins to lose its grip. Not because you forced it out, but because you finally stopped pretending it wasn't there. The parts of you that you don't like are not your enemies. I used to think it was. I used to look at the flawed parts of me and get disgusted. They are the parts of you that have been waiting the longest to be seen honestly, to be met with something other than avoidance or shame. And when you meet them with honesty and with willingness to understand rather than condemn, they begin to release their hold. And underneath them, underneath all of it, is what was there before any of the performance arrived. The truth of you, the sweetness of the essence of your soul, whole, unchanged by everything that accumulated on top of it. It's all still there, will always be there, waiting for you to remember that none of what you accumulated was ever real. This is not a journey towards becoming something you are not yet. This is more of a return to what you always were. The recognition of what is not you is the path back to what it is. And you've already taken the first step the moment you were willing to look. Think about that. I remember for me, when I started to face these demons that I had within, I was so afraid of it, to face it, because I felt ashamed. But in reality, I was running from myself. And in order to in order to be true to who I am, the real sweetness of the soul, like I said before, I had to face it. I had to look at it and then track back to where it all began. Selah. If something in you wants to go deeper into anything that I said in this, if anything resonated with you at all, there's a link in my bio. And the link in my bio it gives you an option to see the services that I have, but it also gives you a free session where we can chat for 20 minutes and you can decide what you want to do going forward. Selah.